To the east were the moving waters as far as the eye could follow. To the west, a sea of grass as far as wind might reach. Now that is how the greatest Chicago writer, Mr. Nelson Algren, in a little book called Chicago, City on the Make, described what this area might have looked like to the first outsiders.
Right now, you all are sitting on the very first backwards flowing river in the entire world.
Well, what a contrast, isn't it, to the designs in front of it? This is Marina City here, which is an interesting dynamic design by Bertrand Goldberg, another student of Mies van der Rohe, who said, boxes are psychological storms.
Gentlemen, get your cameras ready, look to your left. I give you the sea. Tower.
And this is where we get to see Fashion Man. He's going to do a nice little dance for us. There he is. Turn around. One more time. Again. Take it off. Take it all off. And swing. Woo! Yeah. Everybody give a round of applause. That is Chicago's infamous Fashion Man.
And if they turn around, sometimes they do go up the river first, but sometimes, a lot of times on this cruise, they'll turn around and go under, go out to the lake first. And if they do that, then they'll get to see me a second time about, this will be now maybe about 4:30 in a different suit from the State Street Bridge. So I jumped.
First time I saw Vince was probably 3 or 4 years ago. It's hard to recall because having been down here, 15 years, you get a lot of whack jobs that come and go. And usually they come and they go, and where they go, we don't know, but Vincent seems to have stayed around and actually is his own category because he's not our typical run-of-the-mill river character. And I just got to quit calling him Vincent. I'm doing that for you. His name's Riverace.
We call him Fashion Man.
Vince the suit guy.
Riverace.
Vinny the coat freak. The fashion king of Chicago.
I just called him the human flag.
Oh, that's Riverace.
The suit.
The Where's Waldo of Chicago.
It's Vincent P. Falk, Mr. Suit.
First time I saw Vincent was when we worked in the Archie department. We used to take charters down the river. We do public tours, which are open for an hour, and you do a ride. We also do charters. We went down the river, and he had this lime green suit. I mean, fluorescent lime green suit. And somebody pointed it out, and one of the other boats going the other way blew its horn. He assumed it was us and started waving, and he started his, what we later became known as his show. But yeah, he's going probably 6 years ago is the first time I saw him. You know, so he's become an urban legend, and he's quite comical.
The first time I said to myself, who's the crazy guy on the bridge? You know, because you see him and Vincent looks pretty crazy. He's in a very bright and colorful suit, and the captain will look at me and be like, oh, that's Fashion Man. He's here all the time. He just comes out and waves hi to all the boats and waves his jackets around.
I just thought he was a character, you know, maybe something was wrong with him, to be honest, you know. If you see him in October, then maybe you think he's dressed up for Halloween, but then you see him all summer long, he's doing the same thing, and I've done anywhere from 7 to 8 rides a day, and this guy have a different color suit on every time we pass down the river.
Honestly, I wasn't sure what to think of him when I first saw him. I was like, is this guy homeless? Is he, you know, kind of not all there? Is he maybe a little mentally challenged? And you could kind of see his face from even though I was on the river and he was so far up on the bridge. But I mean, you could kind of see that, you know, like his eyes were a little funny, and I guess I didn't really know what to think of him when I first met him.
The only thing that kind of kept me from closing the door on him intellectually was that he had lots of different brightly colored suits. And people who are street lunatics do not have lots of, you know, they don't have the capital. They usually have one suit and it's threadbare, etc. So I had to somehow explain that to myself. And the way I explained it was I thought, okay, he's some sort of, you know, a trust fund lunatic.
That he has a well-to-do parent or parents or family, and they take care of him, and they dress him, and they let him wander around the city, and he finds his way home at night. Now, that may not be his true story, but that's what it looks like. That's what people think is going on.
Well, I told him from what I understand, he had a business that was quite successful, and that he suddenly went blind, and that he sold the business, and then was semi-retired. He got 30% of his sight back. So then he went to work for the Chicago Tribune as a computer genius and a kind of computer nerd, and still carried out his routine and kind of as a hobby, of going around in his different suits and going on the bridge and going over by Channel 5 News in the morning. And that was just Vince, that's what he did.
So if you can think it, somebody has said it for Vincent.
My eye problem is glaucoma, and I think I was born with it. And I think I was born before they developed the instruments that were used to measure glaucoma, so probably that's why I went undetected for so long.
Thank you. Oh, here, I'm in.
The amount of vision I have, I technically 20-400, I think is the technical, although may have gotten worse since that last time was measured. My 2400 is my left eye, and I'm essentially blind in my right eye. Don't see anything on my right eye. I am considered legally blind, but I can see well enough to get around, as you can see, and to select my wild outfits.
How you doing, Mr. Falk?
Okay, I'm here for my appointment with Dr. Negri.
What do you see there?
Oh, no, nothing looks like this is old.
This is for this side. Anything? No?
No.
Okay, let's turn this around.
Oh.
And how about there?
I think I see an E
Think you see an
pointing to the right.
Have you noticed any changes in your vision at all since you were here last time?
No. About the same.
Okay. And you doing okay with the drops?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Have you been out flashing the boats?
Yes. All of them, not just a boat of them.
Glaucoma takes away your peripheral vision. Ultimately, it takes away your central vision. His peripheral vision is already down to a small tunnel. And he's also basically seeing out of one eye. So when a patient sees out of one eye, they're really relying on that eye to see. I mean, we normally walk around with two eyes and we rely on both eyes to give us binocular vision, to see things in dimension, and to have a wide peripheral vision on either side. With one eye and with decreased vision and with a constricted field, the world that he sees is very different from the world that you and I see. His everyday life, his everyday functioning, you would think his vision would be better. and I wonder, I often wonder what he's looking out of. I really do, because what he tells me he does and what other people around tell me he does, and he's so active and he picks out the right suits for the right occasions. For that, I can believe that his vision isn't that good.
Hey, buddy. You know you be clean, don't you?
He brought his own camera, bro.
Go ahead. Come on, put a spin on for me. Let me check you out. Bam!
Well, the checks are already here.
And they look good on you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
All righty then. Bam! You the man.
Is Randy here?
Yes, he's on lunch.
Oh.
He knew you were coming, so he took a lunch. And I can honestly admit this on camera, that I've actually followed him closer than medically I would need to, just so I can see him a little bit more often.
It's very rare that we talk to anybody on the other side of the glass. The people that walk by, my regulars, people I notice daily, or people who daily notice me, I don't talk to. This is the only guy I make a point to have a conversation with on a daily basis. And you hesitate to do that. But he's insufferable. He's unstoppable. He's a force of nature. You know, you'd feel bad if you didn't ask, dude, what's your deal?
Come here, Vincent. That's a great jacket you've got. I know last week I was teasing you about having one that was a grass jacket. You said this is the closest you had, right?
Well, the grass is always greener on the other suit.
Thank you, Vincent.
Yeah, the bus driver had turning on his mind. Right, last week they showed me about 35 after. This week they're showing me about 45 after. Just a matter of when they work me in.
Now and time to check out Vincent this Friday.
I have some of my older suits here, and I have some of my sport jackets. These are just my sport. I don't use these. What's in here I don't use too often, except for those. Those are some of my older suits and some of my just leather and suede sport jackets I used to wear more often than I do now. To make it easier for them to see, I guess I try to keep the suits of the same color apart from one another. Just kind of keep contrasting colors next to one another. Yep, here's the balcony. Now if I could somehow find some way to knock off about the top 20 floors of those two buildings, my view would be a lot better. My lunch hour in the summer times, I mainly stand out on the State Street Bridge and get fashion shows of the tour boats. A whole bunch of tour boats come down the river from about 1 to 1:15.
Hey, nice suit. Beautiful. Look at that.
Well, thank you. Get this light before it changes. Now I get all hung up. Let's see if Looney Lee is here. Now this is a jacket Kathy Lee's gonna definitely have to try on.
I don't think so, Vinny. No, you look like a dairy cow.
Oh, I got a little bit of eggs in it. Oh, now I'm gonna fire up my system. I work as a computer programmer for Cook County MIS. And my second duties is Riverachi on the river bridges.
Yeah, I was here day one, 19 years ago, and I do remember the first time I seen him. I was like, "What is this?"
I have to call animal control. Come on, I need your help.
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm happy that he's under me, because I know what he can do, and I'm in charge of the real estate division of Cook County. And, we collect billions of dollars in taxes and distribute money to all the agencies. We're talking billions of dollars, and then the crux of it is through our programs that we developed in-house here, and Vinny's a main part of that.
Okay,
all
well
this
then.
work for that, yes.
Yeah. But then, you want to do that, but you don't want to compile the program with Laura's changes
Right.
in it yet.
No, I'm going to rename that one.
But you don't have to rename. You don't have to rename the map then.
Right, just the
rename
desect and the program. Okay, thanks.
He seems to retain everything in his head, and so he's the go-to guy. Hey, Vin, this problem's happening. Oh, I know what that is, and he fixes it right away.
And when I leave work, I usually go right to the LaSalle Street Bridge to catch the Wilmette as it's coming down on its 4 o'clock architecture tour. The reason I go to the LaSalle Street Bridge is because the timing of the boat's run, I would probably miss the boat if I certainly would have missed the boat if I came directly to this bridge. And some days there are times I would even miss the boat if I went to the Wells Street Bridge. And then as soon as I get done with the Wilmette, then I just get over here to this bridge for the rest of the boats. I'm expecting the shoreline sightseeing. The boats I expect usually are the shoreline sightseeing makes a run, Sea Dog makes a run, and the Fort Dearborn, that's when I end the session. And here comes a river bus. Ooh my, isn't he horny today? Ooh. Oh, what the heck? He wants it, he'll get it. I think I first bought my first suit from Roberto's back around 1999 or 1998. Today, unless he gets something that really knocks me out, I'm not going to buy a suit today. I may buy a couple of shirts, but I'm not going to buy a suit unless he shows me something that's really wild. I already got this color. I'll just kind of take a look through here, but most of these are either colors I have or colors that don't particularly do. Yes, I do. Maybe not this specific one, but I do have a suit that's almost exactly like that, mint green color, yes. What's this other suit you had laid out? Let's see it. Let's take a peek at it.
Hold on. He's going to get it down.
Oh,
So
This one? Yeah, doesn't do anything. Yeah.
You don't do anything?
No.
Not the color.
I mean, compared to the suits I have, this one's rather blah. I don't have this one, but again, I got a couple of royal. I'll put in, but again, I've got a couple of royal blue ones. Yeah. Nice suit, but yeah, nice suit. But again, I have two other suits that are royal blue, a shiny one and a not so shiny one. So I don't. Here, let me take a look at this green one. Also, take a look at.
I showed you last time. You said no.
Okay, let's see.
With green suit.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Take it
Let's just see what material this is made of. Yeah, okay, I see it's not really, yeah, okay, that's not really, I mean, I want to get, it's a nice shape. If it was satin, I'd get it, but I want to stick to the satin shirt.
I don't know what to make of him. I mean, I'm a radio talk show host. I know about ego. I know about attention. And I interview people in that showcase studio who are only there because they're famous or have made a life getting attention attracted to themselves. I have never seen anybody who at any level makes such a point to try and draw attention to themselves. And who's making a genuine effort. I mean, he's not just standing on a soapbox screaming. There's something real about him. There's a reason to look. But his effort, you know, I'm impressed with his effort. It just seems to be relentless. And I don't know what makes somebody so want to be the object of people's attention.
I decided to work the marathon this year because I wanted to give the runners a little extra experience. They give them a little extra something to see. Yeah, I might look at the map and see. See if there's a street when they come back downtown, like near, because I know they're going to come across the Franklin Street Bridge. Who knows? They might. If I can find for when they come back down from Newtown, they might see me in a different suit.
Most people, they go about their job, they work in the factory, whatever. They don't project themselves onto the world. And Vincent and I are brothers in this, in the sense that we are projecting ourselves onto the world. I have this column, my picture on the top, I'm filling it up, and I'm kind of going, hey, I'm waving my coat over my head.
I don't know if he has other things to do. I don't know what he does. I mean, no, I do know what he does in his spare time. It's obvious. But I don't know what else Vincent would want to do in his spare time.
Well, maybe it's not just even, oh, here I am having fun. Maybe, he's a mastermind at this. Maybe he's really thinking, let's see how far I can go with this publicity thing. You know, the mastermind of self-promotion. And it's almost like an experiment where I want to see how far it gets, how much attention I can call to myself.
That's terrific,
kind
Vincent.
of appropriate with the hula dance.
Now, can you do a hula, Vincent? Do you have a hula capability at all?
I had heard about Studio 5, and I kind of figured, I knew it was a street-level studio, and I knew there was a good chance I could get myself in my wild suit seen on TV. So Studio 5 kind of got my interest as soon as I found out about it.
We weren't open all that long when Vincent first came around, and I'll never forget him walking. We're not that populated at between 5 and 7 o'clock in the morning, and he had some suit on that you could see for blocks anyway, and Bob Lazo, who's our chief of security, and I, and we're old friends, looked at it and then we both went, uh-oh, what the hell is this?
He showed up one Friday, I think around 6:30, and it became his time slot.
We looked over our shoulders and went, who's that?
Yeah, we did.
And then the following week, who's that? And the following week, oh, it's Vince.
We had discussed the possibility of unusual and different people showing up outside Studio 5 and what to do about it. And he seemed pretty harmless, but he certainly had shocking outfits on.
And we didn't know what he was going to do from week to week. And I was like, I think that's a guy that's on the bridge. And they were like, there's a guy on the bridge.
Don't jump, Vincent.
Exactly. And so it just became this whole other thing.
And I still remember to this day, I think it was Ellie said, and at that time, of course, Ellie, none of the people there knew me. So Ellie said, I wonder what,
She goes, I wonder where that guy in the salmon. I wonder who that guy in the salmon suit's tailor is. And at that point, I gave him a spin move. That was my first Studio 5 spin move.
Well, when he did this first spin, but then when he took the coat off and did the whole ballyhoo, I was like, oh, I gotta widen out and get a bigger shot, you know.
There he is, look at
Do
that
not
outfit.
adjust your TV sets. You're in focus right now.
Have a good weekend.
After the first couple of weeks, it was pretty obvious that he liked the attention he was getting. And 1 week became 2, and 2 became 4, and 4 became 8. And how long has passed now?
At least a year and a half.
Yeah, 2 years.
And the question you ask yourself as well is this something? Is this a rational thing? Is it as a hobby? Is it his art? Is it his is it what? My guess, as I see him day by day, is I would say I would tend more towards the disturbed. Whatever tragedy in his life happened, the forceps at birth type of thing, and that he was left in some sort of state, and for some reason, some sort of idiot savant tendency has made him want to dress flamboyantly because he's blind. He was a part anyway, and rather than be ashamed of it, as most people would be, he went with it.
My real parents, I really don't know anything about them at all. I don't even remember my stays at the orphanage, at the St. Vincent's orphanage. I don't have any memories of my stay there either. My earliest memories were, some of the earlier years at St. Joseph's. St. Joseph's is a home for children who are too old to be at St. Vincent's. St. Vincent's is essentially set up for infants. So when they get a little bit older, they get sent over to a place like St. Joseph's.
Vincent was in intake for a period of about 2 years because they did not know what to do with Vincent, and he needed a lot of extra help. They really had no IQ or nothing on him, and I guess they just felt that he was destined for some institution. And I guess they didn't feel that he could go to school. His eyesight was so bad, and he talked like in a very monotone voice all the time. Like he used to always say to me, say it to everybody, I guess, when am I going to get a mommy and a daddy to love? And that's the way he always talked, in a very monotone voice.
What I remember is a nice place to live in. I would remember standing, right there by the Metro, was now the Metro electric tracks, the IC tracks, and I remember standing at the wall there looking out and watching the trains go by. I think I had first and second grades, I think I had at St. Joseph's, and it might have been around third grade that I moved into the Falks.
Some of the children had family that would come to visit them on visiting Sunday, or they had a social worker, or they had friends or somebody, but Vincent had nobody. Vincent was difficult at first because they didn't have any idea that he was intelligent. And then when the sister found out that he could read, then it made a big difference. Then they start looking for a home for him. Sometimes it was sad when you had a child around here for a long time. Even a couple years was considered a long time, and then all of a sudden it was probably sad. And yet at the same time, the children came to us to get help, to get placed, to get a home, and that's what you look forward to. As much as you hated to see them go, you were glad that they finally found a home to take care of them, someone to love them, and that was his thing. He wanted somebody to love him. You better run, Kitty, because they're coming.
Vincent! Oh, I'm so glad to see you. So handsome.
Oh, thank you.
Do you want to come in?
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm just so happy to see you, Vincent. I hear you're terrific.
Well, I do wear wild outfits and tell wonderful jokes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And print property tax bills.
Oh.
Well, I might as well show Sister a couple of things on my video recorder. My little.
Riverace.
That's what the people on the tour boats call me, because I'm on the bridges giving them fashion shows.
Oh, how great. This is a sister right here, Kathleen Lucian, that taught you
Oh.
I know that how to talk.
Right.
This sister here is Anna Margaret. She taught you in school.
Mm-hmm.
She would put you on a little stool or something so that you could see the board. She'd push you real close to the board.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's when they, Mother Ambrose and Monsignor Brogan, they heard you reading one day. And that's when they decided that, you know, that you really, you could really do great things. And so that's when they started, then they got I guess that's when they started getting the Falk family after you and interested in you.
Uh-huh.
Vincent, I am just so delighted. I am so
darling.
delighted. So delighted. Give me a hug. Oh, I'm so delighted that you came. That you came. I am just so happy that know that you are such a great success.
Well, thank
You're
you.
looking wonderful. I'm just thrilled
Well, thank
to
you.
think that I know somebody that is that made it.
Looks like that little boat's gonna force him over, though. There's a port. That's interesting. Okay, well. Yeah, looks like he's gonna be. Yeah, looks like he's going more this way. Oh, yeah. I think you're. Shit. Well, your camera.
I'm sorry.
You can't get it away from him. Bridget! We're heading to the Columbus Drive Bridge for the first of my 4th of July fireworks fashion shows. Now all the tour boat schedules have been pretty much tossed out the window, and so there'll be a bunch of boats pulling out, heading towards the lake to let people see the fireworks from the water. And I'm gonna get him going, then later on I'm gonna get him coming back. Fashion fireworks! I remember the first time I met the Falks one of the times I sat in one of those parlors in the front of the St. Joseph's building, and I just remember talking to them the first time. And actually they weren't the first people. I had talked to a couple other people. In fact, I even stayed over. I even spent a weekend with a couple. I think I was kind of active and wanting to go around, look around. They'd say, "Come on, relax, relax, relax." And at that time, I really didn't know what the word relax meant. And I think that might have been one reason why they felt I wasn't a fit for them. So, the weekend was over, they took me back to St. Joseph's, and I never saw them again. I was disappointed that didn't work out, but I quickly got over it and moved on. And then of course, the thing that helped was, I think it was probably shortly thereafter I met the Falks. So I was able to, in effect, forget the other family. I think it was after dark when we actually got out of the St. Joseph's and they drove me to 84th Place where their house was. And they showed me my bedroom. and life started with them from there.
When Mary brought him home, he was a quiet kid until he got to know Mary and Claire and living there, and then he started opening up. And that's when problems started. All the good problems. I mean, they loved Vincent very much. He was very obedient, but he just kept on. That mouth never stopped from morning to night. You can tell him that too. I said that.
Mary and Claire had always wanted children of their own, and for some reason could not. And she, being a teacher of handicapped special needs children, she was comfortable with that and was good at it. And she wanted to share that with others.
She had such a loving nature. All her life, she and her husband took in foster children, many, many of them, and would keep them sometimes for years, months, weeks.
I was after a number of the kids, but before some of the others, but I think I was the one that stayed with them by far the longest on a steady basis. Probably because I had no other family, probably because I had no other family, and well, I guess I just fit well enough that I just stayed there. I didn't have to be sent back to the orphanage on occasions because I was misbehaving or, couldn't be handled.
Harry Joe came from Hong Kong, and he would live with his, I don't know if it was a stepmother or one of the relatives, and they kind of beat him up. He had welts on his body, and I called Mary up, asked if she would be willing to take Harry Joe in her home. She said, just send him here, bring him here. So we brought him there. That's how she was. She would never ask any questions, just, sure, we got a room here. And her husband was just the same as Mary. He was very, very kind and gentle person.
Oh, you look well read. Huh? Ooh, silky. Or is it cotton?
Huh?
It's this nice, smooth cotton.
Well, how you doing?
Okay, I think you're kind of emulating me in my family. Oh yeah.
Well, Vincent was always a joker. He liked to make jokes about everything, but he was very, very smart. And Vincent and I used to play games, and he would always beat me all, no matter what. So I got to a point where I had to cheat to beat him.
Because of me, they had the real big chessboard with the big plastic chess pieces. And I remember when I would put the king in check, I always hammer. I would always take the piece I was checking the king, I would start banging on the king. Bang!
He used to beat me playing chess, and I resented it. And because of his eyesight, he's not able to see the board, as good, and I would kind of make a move and cheat him, just so I can beat him once in a while. He used to beat me 8 out of 10 times playing chess. Father Johnson placed me with Mary because it was understood to be a temporary thing, a temporary situation, until he can place me with another foster family. But things turned out to be, longer than it was, and Mary took to me, and I took to their family, and I think I was with them probably on and off for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years.
Claire and Mary were like one. They were meant to be married. They were meant to raise the boys that they did. They both had very big hearts and helped a lot of people.
Clarence was very laid back. He has never raised his voice at me, but if I did something wrong, it was up to Mary to discipline me.
My dad was a plumber. He was a union plumber, and he was a ham radio operator, so I learned to be a ham radio operator from him. He had his own transmitter set up and antenna and all that.
Mary was a school teacher. She taught, I'm not sure what she taught, but she was a school teacher. In fact, she was teacher of the year one year, I remember.
I remember she didn't get on TV or anything like that. She got her picture in the paper, but I don't remember that she actually got on TV. I remember asking her, of course I'd been watching TV and seeing all these newscasts and reporters with their microphones, and I asked her if she had people with microphones, and she said no, they're just people with tablets that wrote down her answers. So apparently there weren't any TV people covering that. Since you stopped at my apartment, I got one of these things as a portable DVR device.
Oh, yeah?
And I've been recording some of the stuff I've been... Let's see here.
Okay. He's doing a dance. All right, you do it.
And remember, this is going out over TV.
I did hope to become, a permanent member of the family, but things just didn't work out. I don't remember what, but I think Mr. Lee did not want to pay support for me anymore, to be living with somebody else. So I believe that he said that he's not paying any more support for me and that he wanted me back with his family. And then I did go back to him, but I stayed there only like a couple of weeks and I was gone.
I think I felt I lost a brother at the time he left.
All right, so I did write a haiku about Vincent Falk, and it is called "The Man in the Rainbow Suit, Waving as the Boats Pass By." Standing on the bridge, vibrant dress and flapping hands, wake of loneliness. Now, of course, I don't know if Vincent is actually a lonely person, but someone who comes out and spends their day all day on the bridge waving at boats could come across as being a little bit isolated.
He took a lot of abuse because he was not normal. He did not fit the norm at the time, and you know how students are. If people don't fit a norm, then they're outcasts, or they're butt of some jokes, which Vincent was at times. Because he wasn't that full-sighted or somewhat blind, he'd get tapped on the shoulder and look around for somebody, and there'd be nobody there, of course. That happened. That's one of the things that I remembered a lot. There were 1,600 students in the school at the time, but he would have probably been in the top 10 for getting picked on.
I don't recall that. I think I just took it as part of high school life.
And when we were growing up, a lot of kids would be picking on him, but he would just laugh it off. He would make a joke about everything.
Hi. Greetings to you.
I think basically Vincent is shy. And I think that's another reason where walls go up. Because I don't think he really knows what to say or handle some of the questions or some of the conversations. And if he gets uncomfortable, comes the joke. And then you realize, withdraw, retreat.
We saw you on Channel 5 yesterday.
Oh, interesting.
Tony and I got it on tape. It was very nice. It was a good...
You got it on tape? Really?
Really.
Initially, it's always an exchange of puns. That's what happens. I like puns, he does too.
Well, let's match these clothes.
Oh. Oh no. Oh, please. Where'd you get that little pun from? An old flame?
Ooh. I knew that'd get you all fired up.
Then I might ask him a question because I have a visual impairment, he does. So I might say, gee, Vince, when you're using the computer, because I have problems with that, what do you do? So he'll give me an answer. He really will. But then it's always this very nice, polite answer and everything, and then it's like, okay, I'll see ya, and then he leaves.
He accepts people up to a certain point, but he still keeps them at a distance, and he's still got a little wall around himself. I'll be busy for a couple of weeks when I get back.
So you'll be dizzy for a couple of weeks. Notice I said dizzy. I just took your one word and I tweaked it a titch.
Yeah. To discover Vincent would be very, very difficult. I mean, Vincent as a whole. I really don't know who knows Vincent that intimately. Perhaps only Vincent.
Hey, Anna, now you're in a good position to give everyone the brush off. That probably may bristle forth with that. Oops.
I was waiting for the oops.
I think that his loneliness could consume him if he didn't have the cow parade or the couch parade or, you know, NBC at Friday morning at 6:30.
Yes, it's practically a party out here in Michigan Avenue. Do you know that it's National Pun Day? Indeed it is, my friend. And I brought the king of puns on Michigan Avenue, Vince. I'm trying to compete with you with my nice jacket, but I don't think I'm doing it.
Well, it's a golden opportunity.
Oh,
so don't feel too blue about it.
Oh, the blue shirt.
Oops.
Oops. How do you like our calendar, girls?
I guess Hooters is a rather dated corporation.
Because of the calendar. There we go. And our bartenders?
They just get mixed up in their work.
There you go. They get mixed up in their work. We'll be right back. Calendar girls, Vince, and our bartenders. Back to you guys. Thanks, Vince.
Yes, darling.
I think it probably is something I might have aspired to when I started doing all these things, just to have people see me and know of me.
Well, you know, I mean, is it a fashion statement? Is he an exhibitionist? Is he? I don't know what he's up to. I don't know. Don't ask me. Ask anyone else. I think they'll give you the same answer. I don't have a clue.
I started my fashion. The very first notion of fashion shows, I guess, was really shortly after I started moving here. A lot of times I would sit on the river, on the planter by the river walk there, and I would see the boats going by, and sometimes I would just stand up and just wave to the boats from the side of the river there, just wondering if they would see me in my wild suits. One time I was going somewhere over in the West Loop area, and I crossed the bridge, and the Sea Dog came by, although that time I wasn't wearing one of my wild suits. I think I was just wearing one of my leather jackets and a sports shirt. The Sea Dog came by, and I waved to the Sea Dog as he going by, and the guy said, "Hello!" The guy said hello back to me. And at that point I started thinking, maybe I should start showing my wild suits to the tour boats. 2001 I started the waving to the boats, and at that time it was pretty much just strictly waving. Then it might have been the end of 2001 or maybe early 2002 that I started doing the spin moves. And that's when I started calling it more of a fashion show. It might have been in the early 2003 that I just developed the thing of taking the jacket off and just letting it drop to the bridge deck and then doing another spin move with just my shirt. That was my first version of the jacket coming off.
The first time I ever saw Vincent, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was at least 6 years ago. And I actually thought that he was on the bridge, and I thought he wouldn't only take off his coat. I thought he was gonna strip down. So it was very scary at the moment. So I kind of diverted everyone's attention away from Vincent. And since then I've learned it's much more fun to show exactly what he's going on.
As we look on top of the next bridge, folks, we can see Vincent. Okay, we're gonna pass it, we're gonna give him a cheer, folks. Ready? Hip hip! Hip hip! Hey, Vincent! Looking good in the orange!
Well, I had been doing the thing of dropping the jacket to the deck for a couple of months, and then I just decided I wanted to do something different. I just thought it was nice, but it wasn't really all that. I decided I could do. I figured I could do something better, and that just gave the idea one day maybe I should just try twirling the jacket around. So I tried it, and it seemed to work. I seemed to be able to do it nicely, and it worked nicely.
It's made the tour a little better, because people were having fun on the tour, but suddenly it's elevated to another level. You're elevated to another level just because there's somebody here doing this crazy thing just for you.
It's a phenomenon. It's becoming a phenomenon.
On the State Street Bridge ahead of us, you can see a man in a yellow suit. This is Suit Guy. He comes out here and waves a pose.
Vincent has taken our common perceptions and tilted them askew, and I think that's what good art does. And I mean, he is an artist because a man is standing on a bridge. 1 million passers-by a day walk over the bridge, and our life becomes mundane. Vincent takes this one act. He stands on a bridge in a suit and does a fashion show, something no one else has ever done. Nothing new under the sun. Vincent is new under the sun.
Well, one of our unusual characters in Chicago is named Vincent. Vincent is sometimes called the man of 1,000 suits. Reportedly, he's going to be on top of the Clark Street Bridge here as we pass underneath. He's got a blue suit on right now. He comes out and shows us all his suit things. Reportedly, there is Vincent. Give him a big cheer. Hiya, Vince.
Hey, I want you to start using your cane, you know that? I think you should. Yeah. Because, you know, you can't have people running into you.
Oh.
All right?
Yeah.
You promise?
I'll consider.
No,
I won't promise. No, I'm not going to promise. I would consider.
I want you to promise, though.
No, I'm not going to promise.
Vince.
No, I'm not going to promise.
When was the last time I seen you? How many years ago?
Many, many moons.
Well, you were using it back then, and you should use it now. All right? Give us some good consideration.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay, I'll consider it.
And during my high school years, yes, I did carry a cane. My parents insisted that I carry a cane. I felt I didn't really need a cane, but they insisted I carry a cane.
One day, out on deck comes Vince, wants to dive, and this was not unusual, except Vince was impaired in sight. Then I started to wonder what was happening. Who was this kid, and what was he doing?
I think I just found diving more fascinating than just swimming. To me, I guess swimming just seemed rather boring.
I was scared coaching him. Scared may not be, apprehensive about him getting hurt. And then I was impressed immediately, almost immediately, at his tenacity and his willingness to take risks to gain something for himself. Certainly wasn't, diving for great honors in the world. He was doing it for Vince, and that impressed me.
Vincent never complained about his lack of eyesight, and whatever he did, he just did it. Even though his eyesight was poor, he never complained about it, and never said, I can't do that, I can't see. But he was always involved in things.
He liked competitive diving. He liked the challenge of it. He liked being judged, being measured at what he was doing. And he liked the ability to see improvement. He liked to have people observe what he's doing and then critique in some way, and then let him know what he would know what he's doing. He could use that to judge himself. It's fun to watch the kid go. Watch him go do it. It's like you shake your head and go, wow, crazy. You don't need to be doing this. Well, he needed to for himself.
Mary taught us that when you want something bad enough, you have to work for it. And if you keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, you're gonna succeed. You might not do it right away, but at the end, if you put enough efforts into it, and she taught us that you have to earn the things that you get. Nothing comes free.
My dream was to be in the Air Force because of my interest in aviation and space. Because by that time I had developed a definite interest in aviation and space. I was watching everything space-related I could on TV, including when I could all the Mercury and Gemini flights.
Hi. I just arranged.
I like that suit. It's a nice color.
I just arranged it.
Labor Day weekend is a little bit, I wouldn't say sad, but it does kind of mark the end of the summertime.
Hi, people.
But there'll still be lots of boat traffic in September. You really won't see any major slowdown in boat traffic probably until the end of September. I might still keep the same schedule, possibly. I'll play it by ear, possibly into October, but it's just that in October there won't be as many boats. I guess I just realized that aeronautical engineering, among other things, took more ability to see than I had, and that there's no way around it. Plus, I guess I was kind of fooling around in the dorms. I didn't really apply myself to my studies. I had a definite interest in audio at that time, and maybe I spent too much time with the audio and not enough time with the books. And there was a combination of that and the realization that, you know, once I got into it, some of the studies involved in the engineering, that'd be real hard for me to do it because of my vision. That was when I started deciding that the computer programming field might be better for me than aerospace engineering, that something I could do even with my visual situation. So so we got into Elgin Community. So it was decided I should go to junior college.
He was an unusual character around campus. He was well known for wanting to try on other people's coats.
He would go up to people and he would admire their coats. And because he didn't see too well, even though I wasn't completely blind, he would get very close and he'd talk about what a nice coat it was. I think he even said to me, even though I just wore this raggy old pea jacket most of the time, and he would want to trade.
We had a contractor in here quite a while ago, and he went to the University of Illinois, and he's seen Vincent, of course. He remembered Vince from Champaign, and he had an article, "Whatever Happened to Vincent the Coat Freak?"
Well, at the time I was doing this weekly column, and I dug Vincent out of my memory, and used him, I'm pretty sure I saw Vincent in Springfield. This would have been, I think, 4 or 5 years before I wrote the column. I noticed that he wasn't asking anybody about their coats. So I assumed that he'd had left that behind with his student life, and he must have gone on to gainful employment and leading a life in which coats had their normal place. I don't know.
I think we should see what this looks like on you, Kathy.
This is. Yeah, help me out. Oh, okay.
Remember we tried them on once before? Oh, yeah.
It doesn't quite fit.
Let's see what this looks like on you, darling.
Again?
You already tried it on?
Yes. No, I tried on the white one.
Wow.
Come in. This is my look.
Vince never admitted that was him, and it was down to a T. It was Vinny, about, asking to try people's coats on and things like that, changing coats, but for some reason, Vince said it wasn't him, and so I never pursued it.
I guess I just didn't. I guess I just thought that this thing about trying on the coats, especially the at that time I thought that would make me look rather kooky. I didn't want. I mean, it's one thing to be seen doing spin moves and telling wonderful jokes, but I didn't want to have people think I was kooky even back then. That was also fairly early in my career at MIS, and I didn't want to have the people get any kind of negative ideas about me from something that happened almost 20 years earlier. So I just kind of brushed it aside. I think back then, I think I may have started dressing a little flamboyantly. I didn't have wild colored suits, but I was able to get my hands on some nice, usually in second-hand stores, on some nice colorful, silky shirts, and I was wearing those a lot. My mother did not like the idea of me buying stuff at second-hand stores. She was afraid I'd get some sort of a skin disease.
I think Mary was very protective of him, maybe overly protective.
My parents probably would have wanted me to use a cane. I just never got around to telling them I wasn't.
Vincent kind of resented having people protecting him all the time. He wants to be able to protect himself.
I got a job as a meal boss, and I used my money to buy my first real good audio equipment. And that's where I gained a reputation for putting my speakers in the window, putting on what I called mini concerts. They packed all my audio equipment in the station wagon, brought me back home from college. They wouldn't let me bring the audio equipment into the house and set it up. They insisted on storing in the garage, and she said they were gonna have a little garage sale. I guess that might have been what led to me leaving and moving down to Champaign-Urbana, was because I felt they were being too strict with me for too long, for too late in my life. I was living in Chicago when he died, and maybe now I kind of regret that. And then I didn't go to his funeral. I guess at that time I still was enough on the outs with my mother that I just didn't want to go there to the funeral. So maybe now I feel bad that maybe now I realize that maybe I should have at least gone to the funeral. Today is Sunday. It's also the last day of the last run of the last river cruise boat. The people aboard will feast their eyeballs, and then Riverace will go home for the winter. Living in Chicago, I was unemployed for nearly a year, yes. And at that time, I applied for and started getting SSI benefits, supplemental security income. Stage 618 was my first discotheque DJ job. Stage 618 is right where the Rock and Roll McDonald's is now. Stage 618 was a lot of people would call it a dive, and it probably was. It was specialized in go-go boys. I mean, it was a good place to start out as a disc jockey, but eventually I got weary of having to play music for the go-go boys instead of trying to play for the crowd. It was during the daytime. It was about noontime. I happened to be in the bar, and then comes my mother. She didn't know it was a gay bar because Stage 618 was one of those places that had a completely different characteristic and look and feel about during the day than it does in the evening at night. And I think I was kind of eager to get her out of there as quickly as I could, within the limits of politeness.
But Vince was very cagey too. Very cagey. He would talk about, she was asking him questions about how things are going, and he would put a pun in there. And that kind of made everything a little happier. And then Mary would forget what she asked him, but she'd go on something else. But he was clever, very clever about those answers that he would give.
I think I realized I was gay while I was down in Champaign-Urbana, when I determined that at that time, did like guys better than women.
I think about a young man on the South Side, growing up with his eyesight problems. What could they do? Middle class. He's going to school. He's different. And then you give another whammy. He's gay. And that's something we didn't talk that much about.
My mother, if she knew I was gay, I mean, my mother would have had kittens.
She worried about him a lot. There was a time when Mary wouldn't, she didn't have contact with Vincent. She worried how he was living and where he was living, and she would try to get down to his place, but she would go, and I don't think she'd go upstairs. She would take things to him, but she never went into his apartment.
I didn't want her to know about my lifestyle, which is probably one reason I stayed away from her so long. You know, when I went to see her on Easter, that may have been when they decided that maybe now is the time to start keeping in regular touch with her. And by that time, all the dust had blown over from all the previous incidents. And she accepted me. I would go to see her maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Usually I'd see her at Easter time. Usually I'd go to see her on my birthday. I would see her at Christmas and maybe 1 or 2 other times a year. I still was living my lifestyle. I mean, I didn't want to go and see her too often. I just, wanted to keep in regular touch with her, but I still wanted to live my own life.
We started coming by Cheeks late night. We had a little restaurant next door to us called the Super Bowl Grill, where everybody knew him. It was the characters of the Avenue, the people that were out all hours of the night. And Clark and Diversey was kind of a hub of nightlife activity that you would find around a place like Cheeks. And Vince was a fixture on the boulevard.
Okay, right here is where Cheeks Lounge used to be. This place right here. This is where Cheeks Lounge used to be.
Cheeks was written up in the Tribune, the Sun-Times. There were some things done at it. It was a late night Andy Warhol smoky establishment. It was probably one of the most prominent late night cruise bars in Chicago. As a DJ, I think he was great, and not looking like the typical disco person that would be out on the dance floor. He had a feel for a crowd, and he could keep the bar crowded. If you were a stranger in the establishment and you walked up to the DJ booth to make a request, you'd see a DJ who would hold the album jackets right about a half inch from his eye. You could make a request, and there'd be 500 album jackets in there, and he could move through and pull an album out, and he didn't make a mistake. He pulled them, he knew where things were. And, I mean, it was his room, and the problem, I couldn't have other people work it because they'd mess up his inventory control. But he had it down. He was something.
I figured the disc jockey part of my life had passed. So now that's when I went to that training course at Chicago Citywide Colleges for computer programming. And then I did another training course for word processing. And at that time I also took the civil service test for Cook County government and wound up on the 7th floor of the county building.
And at that particular point in time, well, we still have the Americans with Disabilities Act that we have to hire people, no matter what disability they might have, and we have to make any accommodations to make them work. And because probably if we didn't have that here, Vinny wouldn't have been hired. And it's because of the fact that we had to get special equipment and things like that, special software. Then I don't know if other companies would have to do that. Or so, knock on wood for the American with Disabilities Act.
Well, of course, I made it a point to wear a conservative suit when I went for the interview, and I think I was a little bit conservative when I first started working there. But then I gradually shifted into wearing some of my flamboyant stuff, what I had at that time, including that orange suit with the big floppy lapels. And the people were definitely surprised the first time I wore that one.
When I saw his wardrobe, I thought, oh my God.
This is a suit I bought at the first Roberto's. In fact, this is my only really shiny suit that you'll see in the cow pictures, which I took in 1999, because at that time I didn't have any of the other shiny suits. I saw the cows when they went out
You know, they were put out in late the end of May, early June. And of course I remember sometimes I'd walk to work on State Street and always pass by that psychedelic cow right over in the corner right by the Renaissance Hotel. And I thought every now and then it'd be kind of interesting to take pictures of me in my suits with the cows. When I happened to have a suit that matched a cow, I would ask a passersby to take the picture of me standing next to the cow. But then, I think it was in August, I decided to start doing it big time. First, I would go around and take pictures of the cows by themselves. This is how I do it with all my art pictures. I would see what the pictures look like, what colors they are, and decide what kind of outfits I should wear to go with those different pictures. Then I would go out on my real cow quest with my suits. Maybe I'd do art objects with one suit, then I'd find a hotel or some other place where I could duck in a washroom and change suits. Then I'd go out in a different suit to take other pictures.
I remember one time I was coming to work on a Saturday. I'm walking in the building and I look to my left and there's Vince with like a little wardrobe outfit. He's changing clothes right in the lobby of the county building. I go, what are you doing?
Sometimes I do maybe just a couple cows a day. Sometimes I do maybe 10 or 12, no, 10 or 12. And sometimes, particularly in my cow pictures, I didn't really try to take full suits. I just took maybe shirts and jackets. Maybe I'd had a pair of pants and just would take with shirts and jackets, and that way I could do more cows. Although my later art projects, I try to be more discriminating.
Now we were into the cow project and we were talking about it. There were some particular cows that he had not taken pictures with. And they were being taken off the streets. And to this day, I don't know whether he got every cow. But he went out of his way. I think he actually bought a change of clothes so that he could take pictures there because they were being crated. They were being crated. And there he was, taking pictures with the cows. What's the sense of it except pure enjoyment? And I thought, here's a guy who really has a lot of fun living his life.
Early October of 1999, that's when I bought a yellow suit from Roberto's because I wanted a yellow suit to get some cows I needed to get. It was during Sweet Home Chicago that I really started shopping there regularly. I got a few suits I found useful for Sweet Home Chicago. It was 1999 was the Cows on Parade. 2001, Sweet Home Chicago, what I call the couches. Then 2003 was the All-Star bobbleheads. 2004 was Mickey 75, the mouses on State Street. And then this year was that little thing on Wacker.
Did you ever see that website of his where he's standing by the Chicago cows that were painted?
Yeah.
That's a riot. It's just a riot.
Going to the website is a whole nother experience because the pictures on there are color-coded.
I thought, oh, you have a website? The mystery deepens. How can you have a website? You know, what is that?
If you go to Vincent's website, it gives you little clues. The website is actually dedicated, I believe, to his mother.
Mary was very, very proud of Vince. She would talk about how he overcame so much, how he was operated on as a young child quite a few times, how he put himself through school. She was proud of how he overcame whatever problems he had. She despaired sometimes of his choice in clothing. And she loved him tremendously. She was his mom.
Even though she didn't like me wearing the wild suit, she did enjoy what I did with the artwork. She did get a kick out of what I did with the cows and the couches. She did enjoy those pictures.
He would introduce his mom to, different people, and, and they would say, oh, your son this or your son that, and he would have his bad jokes, and we would blame her, and she would laugh, but I mean, you could tell that they had a great relationship, and as much as Vinny still told us bad jokes, she defended him and still loved him.
If you go on the website, he honors her, and I think he bought her a star. I thought it was very touching.
A star is named after my mother, yes.
And the star chart is on my website along with the certificate proclaiming that it's to be done, so. Because I remember 2 years before she died, she had a breast cancer operation. That wasn't the cancer that eventually got her. I think she died of some sort of stomach cancer. Because she kept talking about how the cancer was taking up all her energy, and any food she ate, it seemed like was going to the cancer rather than to her. It was Labor Day weekend when I first found out about it. And at that time, she knew she was in a terminal condition. So I visited her on Labor Day, and of course, and then my visits got a lot more frequent. Last time I saw her alive was might have been the day before she died. She had a real nice pink blouse on, and I said to her, I said, you know, I think I'll get a suit. I think I'll get a suit just like this. And I thought she kind of got a kick out of that. And at the end, she was in. All she could eat was some kind of pudding type stuff. I asked what type of stuff she was able to eat, and I could see she was getting it out of a bottle with a nipple. And they said it was some sort of pudding. Well, then she died, and I went to the funeral. I'm gonna leave this though. Yeah, I love a White Sox pin because she was a big white. I left one of those I love White Sox pins because she was a big White Sox fan. She's probably the reason why I was a White Sox fan.
One of my favorite visions of him in the city, though, was right after the White Sox won the World Series. They had a parade downtown Chicago, closed off several blocks. So all of the black and white clad White Sox fans came downtown, and there was nearly 1 million people, and it was just a sea of black and white. And working against it was a fuchsia-clad man. And you couldn't help but stop and go, that's what this guy is. The tide's going one way, and he's coming the other way. I started lingering at the WGN radio studio window about middle of the summer when I was leaving the area after my visit to Studio 5. And I saw the guys in the radio window, and I figured, hey, we need to show these guys my wild suits. And so I just started doing my spin moves for him. And eventually I picked up on the idea, hey, if I wait for the commercial break, I'm more likely to get a reaction from him. There we go. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? I really put off ever speaking to him or acknowledging him. But then again, I thought, gee, this guy is so much a part of the Chicago scene. And I'm doing a show based in Chicago, about Chicago. I ought to maybe play off of this a little bit. There he is. What's with the, I thought you were wearing a White Sox outfit today. I remember the first time I just tentatively hit my talkback button and said, hello, nice outfit. And I didn't know what to get. And son of a gun, he talked relatively normally. And What impressed me right away was that he was funny. He had an instant quip, a pun about the color of his clothes. I think he had an orange suit on, and he says, "Oh, well, aren't you glad to see me?" And I thought, okay, that wasn't so scary. You know, I don't know how far I want to go with this, but that was a break in the barrier.
What broke it for me was that as we were walking by one day, the guy in front of me said, "Hello, Vincent," like I do every day now. And I hurried up to him because he was of my own milieu, obviously. I mean, this is really a story about class and about culture in a sense. And so this guy I could ask easily. I said, "Well, you know that guy?" He said, "That's Vincent P. Falk. He's some sort of genius, you know, he works for the county." And that, you know, that obviously did catch my interest, and I started to talk to him the next day, and I got very excited because he spoke in sort of a kind of riddles and little jokes and puns, but obviously there was someone home. I mean, it wasn't a regular person. I mean, see, to me, I mean, that's the great thing about him. That was the thing, that was the moment in the column. I'm glad I didn't forget to mention. It's almost as if he formed out of thin air before me, because I had sort of this mannequin person that I had assembled in my mind, you know, kind of the disturbed trust fund person in his colorful suits. And then as I talked to him, he's a witty, you know, sensible person, and it was scary to have this human being form out of the air before me. And it was a lesson in humility to me, which I always need, and a lesson in sort of looking at stuff.
I knew that he was one of those regular people that if you spend much time downtown, you'll see. Frankly, when he started stopping by my window, I thought, hey, I've arrived. You know, I mean, if this guy's part of the scene and he's coming to my window, then maybe I've arrived.
Vincent, did we get you in there? We're going to use it at 7:39.
WGN-TV approached me. I went to Studio 5 the day after the Sox after the Sox won the World Series.
Well, business is picking up with you. Oops.
Come on, Vince.
You know, it was about a couple weeks later that I got an email saying that November 8th would be National Pun Day, and he suggested that I go and appear in front of the camera on Michigan Avenue on that morning, and so I did. Yeah, I think I'll do my spin move right.
You know, guys, it's National Pun Day, and that's why I have Vince here. He changed his outfit, I think maybe to match mine a little bit, right?
Right.
So, Hooters girls are behind you. I need to see your moves. Girls, you're gonna be his chorus. Check them out. Okay?
Yeah.
Wow. Woo. That's Vince for you.
I'd like to count the emails we've gotten from viewers saying, tell us the story about Vincent. You know, what's the story behind the story?
Welcome back, everyone. Well, on Friday mornings, no matter how bad the news of the day might be, Vincent shows up to brighten our Studio 5 Plaza with another wild suit.
You know, his friends call him Vinny or Vince. That's one of the things we discovered when we spent a day trying to figure out what really makes this guy tick. This master of the corny pun, this owner of 1,000 outrageous suits, Vincent Falk.
I don't think we want to go halfway across Wacker just to get around this humongous thing.
To spend any amount of time with Vincent, you have to walk very fast and make sure your self-esteem is firmly intact.
People on the street, you know, when I walk with them on the street, it's just unbelievable that everybody knows him. You're the NBC suit man or whatever. It's just, everybody knows him.
I told the folks at Channel 5 in the morning that I would not get in front of any morning Studio 7 cameras. Notice the M word, morning Studio 7 cameras, and I haven't been in front of any morning cameras. It's always in the evenings that I'm there and where I get in front of the cameras. And even then I don't do a whole lot. Very seldom do I do any spin moves. I always tell people that if they want to see me do spin moves and do a whole thing, they'll have to turn on NBC 5 on Friday mornings.
We're at the Loop FM for a little session at the Jonathan Brandmeier show.
And just remember to talk right into their steps right here. All right. And just remember to talk right into the
microphone.
Mic. All right. We're go right in here.
Hold on.
Johnny be on the loop, 731. Ah, here comes a nut.
Have a seat.
Here comes a nut.
The notoriety that Vincent has been getting recently in the media, I think, speaks volumes of the media, the journalists, looking for what I was talking about earlier, a nice story. Jesus, have you ever watched television news? So when you get a little feature story like Vincent, where you can have fun with it and realize that life is still nice and fun. It doesn't surprise me in the least.
I'm down here with Riberace, with Vincent Falk, and you're going to do your thing now.
Is he a person who is authentically eccentric and people notice and he feeds off of that? Or is he some guy who is such an egomaniac that he's out there trying to market attention? I think he's a little bit of both, because he's on the radio sometimes now, and I see him on TV a lot, and I saw him in front of a parade, so, you know, I'm not exactly sure what's driving him myself.
So maybe it has to be that there's only a few, you know, deluded fools who think that their personality should fill the space around them. You can, you know, stand on the bridge and you know, scream that you're there until they put you away. And whether you're insane or whether you're an artist, it's probably a pretty, you know, it depends on how talented you are and whether, you know, how well you clean up. And
Come a little closer.
he's not doing something permanent, okay? It's the most ephemeral thing you can imagine. He's just entertaining people in the passing boats. I don't think he's doing it to make them happy, maybe because I'm not that charitable, okay? He's not doing it for them. He's doing it for him.
I sometimes wonder, you know, does he realize in some cases what joy he brings into other people's lives? I mean, in such a distant manner.
To be honest, if Vinny is walking down a street and you don't know him, I mean, our society says that, you know what, he's a freak and there's something wrong with him, and that's just not the case. So take a minute to get to know him, because it will only take a minute, because because you know what you see is what you get with him.
To me, the real thing of life is to enjoy it while you're alive, because after you're dead it doesn't matter. So you've only got now. And while you're around, you should not be shy and shrinking in the shadows, but you should be like Vincent Falk. You should take whatever genius you have and sort of hump it, you know, sort of go with it. Because otherwise, you age and sickness comes over you, and you're left doddering in some corner and no one cares. And at least when Vincent Falk goes, we'll all know that it was Fashion Man who went. No, that doesn't help him at all, but he's happy. You can see he's happy. Okay, he's doing the stuff that makes him happy.
I wish I could be that happy. I'm not sure I'd wear suits, but...
Nice. You stole my suit, didn't you? Yeah, you did.
Vincent spin. He definitely always gives you a wave similar to this. He does a spin, goes back, and then he does a kick.
He waves, then he takes off his jacket.
Crosses over left to right, turns around, waves again, takes his suit off, spins it.
He goes. Whoop, there goes the thing. That's basically it.
And then he takes his jacket off. And then
Something like that.
jacket comes whipping off, and then he's waving. He's got that thing going. He does the spin. Then he like.
First, it's the wave. It's got a lot of the wave. Make sure you get the attention. Ready? Really quick. And he moves like this and turns around and turns around. Oh man, Vincent is like this.
He's off with the jacket. Make sure it's right. Actually, no, he does it better. He does Michael Jackson. He's got the foot behind and then.
He goes to romp and around, twice or 3 times. Hey, and he gets up on. That's what I've seen.
He takes his coat off, and he twirls it around his head. Oh, yeah. And then he spins around again, and then he does one of these, and kick.
I'm doing my best Vincent impersonation. I'm hooking up on my equipment. I'm doing the 360 with the coat. But see, I only have to think about this when I do it. That's how many times I've seen it. That one's for you, Vince.
He'll look in, and then he'll make sure that he's got my attention, and then he'll go like this, and he'll do this, and he'll go that.
Yeah, I love when he has one of those tables and he struggles with it. And you're like, come on, Vincent. And then he goes, and he does this like that.
He just spins. Then he kind of moves to adjust to where the boat is. Then he stumbles. Then he usually takes off his coat and spins it around. And then he spins around. And then he usually stumbles a little bit more. And then I think he does a pot of hooray. Twirls around. And he waves.
And he starts going like this here.
I want to spin around. I can spin around a little bit, but I can spin around back the other way.
And then kind of dips it with a kick.
Not much I can give you in the way of step-by-step instructions.
You know, it's hard. I can't remember all the moves, but we'll do something like this. There we go.
Make sure nothing goes flying out of my jacket because I have some of my poems in here. I don't want to go flying, you know.
See, me, I would do a whole different thing altogether. I'd do something more on the line of like a Dirty Dancer type deal, but I won't do that right here.
No one's gonna see this, right?